US President Donald Trump raised hopes of a peace deal between Ukraine and Russia as he welcomed Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky to the White House. Trump said Russian President Vladimir Putin agreed the Kremlin would accept some security guarantees for Ukraine. Speaking at the meeting with Zelensky and European leaders, Trump described it as a very significant step. He added that European nations would need to take a lot of the burden, but that the US would help them. Zelensky said the world leaders who gathered in Washington had discussed security guarantees and that it had been a very good conversation. French President Emmanuel Macron called for a four-way summit between Ukraine, Russia, the US and Europeans. His German counterpart, Chancellor Friedrich Merz, urged a ceasefire in Ukraine before any meeting between Kyiv, Moscow and Washington.
At least 7 people were killed and more than a dozen others were injured after Russia struck Kharkiv overnight into Monday. Ukrainian officials say the Kremlin fired a new barrage of missiles and drones targeting the northeastern city. Regional Governor of Kharkiv, Oleksiy Neubov, says a 2-year-old boy was among those killed in the attack. 6 of those wounded were also children, ranging from 6 to 17 in age. Local officials say many victims are still trapped under the rubble, warning that figures may continue to rise. Kharkiv has been a target of Russia's intensified aerial assault. On Sunday, the city was struck with an array of drones and guided bombs, injuring several people. The adjacent Sumy region also came under Russian attack in the early hours of Monday. 2 people were injured and more than a dozen homes and an educational institution sustained damage. The Black Sea port city of Odessa has also been placed under monitoring after residents reported hearing explosions late on Sunday and into the early hours of Monday. The attacks come as Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky arrived in Washington for a crucial meeting with US President Donald Trump in the White House. Trump, just hours before he's due to welcome Zelensky, ruled out joining NATO and reclaiming Crimea as part of any potential peace deal with Russia. The meeting comes just days after Trump's Alaskan summit with Russia's President Vladimir Putin in a military base on Friday. Zelensky, making his first visit to the White House since late February's dramatic showdown, will be accompanied by a slew of European leaders, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen.
Russian president has reportedly told Donald Trump that one of his demands is full control of Donbas. Now, the region in eastern Ukraine with a pre-war population of 6.5 million people includes 2 regions, Donetsk and Luhansk. Moscow's demands regarding it are not new. They aren't even from 2022. Putin has been trying to occupy Donbas for 11 years since Russia's first invasion of Ukraine. But even with the full-out war of 2022, Moscow still failed to occupy all of Donbas militarily and hopes to do it now with the maximalist demands under Trump's mediation. The US-based Institute for the Study of War estimates that Russia will be unable to seize all of Donetsk region rapidly by force, since Moscow has been trying to do so for over a decade and failed. Russia could only rapidly seize all of Donetsk region if Ukraine concedes to Putin's demands and withdraws from it. Putin's claim that Russian forces will inevitably seize all of Donetsk region if the war continues is false. The Russian campaign for Chasiv Yar began in May 2023 after Russian forces seized Bakhmut, east of Chasiv Yar, and has then intensified a year later in April 2024. It has taken Russian forces 26 months to advance roughly 11 kilometers from western Bakhmut to the western edge of Chasiv Yar. The Pokrovsk assault campaign began in February 2024 after the seizure of Avdiivka. Moscow has dedicated multiple efforts to seizing Pokrovsk through frontal assaults, envelopment or encirclement, all of which have thus been unsuccessful after more than 18 months. Putin previously said that he also wants to control 2 more regions of Ukraine, Zaporizhia and Kherson. This, according to the UK Defense Ministry, would take Moscow 4.5 years and 2 more million Russian casualties, killed and wounded, on top of 1 million troops that Russia has already lost in casualties since the beginning of its full-scale invasion of Ukraine.
Hamas informed mediators that it approved the latest Gaza ceasefire proposal, several international and Israeli media outlets reported. The proposal was presented to the militant group a day before. It involved a framework agreement for a 60-day ceasefire and a two-step release of the hostages held in Gaza. Egypt and Qatar were mediating the talks with Hamas in an effort to revive the stalled negotiations. Speaking at a news conference, the Egyptian foreign minister also addressed rumors about Palestinian relocation.
ما يتعلق بالدول التي يتردد أو يشاع أنها ستستقبل فلسطينيين، احنا تحدثنا عن هذا الأمر وكما ذكرت احنا على تواصل معهم، وكل دولة نتواصل معها يؤكدوا أن هذا عبث وهذا أمر غير واقعي.
Efforts to reach a ceasefire were ramped up after Israel announced plans to take complete control of Gaza City. This had raised further international concerns amid fears of a worsening humanitarian catastrophe in the Strip.
The US envoy to Lebanon said Washington would seek an economic proposal for post-war reconstruction in the country, after Beirut endorsed a US-backed plan for Hezbollah to disarm. Tom Barrack also said his team would discuss the long-term stop to hostilities with Israel after months of diplomacy between Washington and Lebanon.
We need participation. There's always a step-by-step approach, but I think the Lebanese government has done their part. They've taken the first step. Now what we need is Israel to comply with that equal handshake.
Lebanon's decision last week to support a plan to disarm Hezbollah angered the Iran-backed group. They believe Israel's military should first withdraw from a part of southern Lebanon it has occupied since the end of the war last November. Hezbollah's Secretary General has vowed to fight efforts to disarm the group, sowing fears of civil unrest in the country.
Deadly wildfires have so far burned through more than 3,400 kilometers of Spanish woodland, a record-setting figure for the country according to a European monitor. The fires have forced the evacuation of more than 30,000 people in the northern province of Galicia. Authorities are struggling to contain the fires. Madrid says 12 major wildfires are still ablaze as it awaits assistance from European countries. 2 Dutch water dumping planes and firefighters from other countries are expected to arrive in the coming days under a European cooperation agreement. The country's Civil Protection Unit also added on Monday that Spain is set to receive the largest contingent of international aid in history to battle the flames. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez says a further 500 troops will be deployed to Galicia in a bid to boost firefighting efforts. The deployment is on top of 1,400 troops already on wildfire duty. Portugal, which was also victim to the fires gripping the Iberian Peninsula, appears to have better days on its horizon. The country is expecting cooler weather in the coming days, in a much-needed respite after a string of severe wildfires, which have also stretched Lisbon's resources. On Sunday, more than 4,000 firefighters, 1,300 vehicles, and 17 planes were deployed to tackle the flames. The blazes have so far burnt an area close to 1,400 kilometers, around 17 times more than what it was in 2024.
Mathieu is a regular at Pukkelpop, a Belgian music festival. It all began in 2017 when one of his friends posted a message on social networks in which he shared their wish to attend the festival in a wheelchair. That's how he became acquainted with the Flemish agency Inter, which works to make festivals accessible to all. Since then, he has returned almost every summer with a companion. In particular, he can enjoy the concerts from an elevated platform accessible via a ramp.
Personnellement, je préfère être sur les plateformes surélevées parce que je me sens plus rassuré. Sinon, je vois rien. Et quand il y a des trucs qui se passent dans la foule, j'aurais trop peur de me faire basculer.
The festival has parking spaces and a priority entrance reserved for people with reduced mobility. People with special needs also have access to a campsite with adapted showers and sanitary facilities. According to Inter, this year more than 130 festival goers stayed at that campsite, which is run by some 40 volunteers, and more than 400 people requested special facilities.
There is a refrigerator for your medicine. You have more space around your tent so you can actually get out. Sometimes otherwise people just put their tent right in front of your entrance, and then it gets dodgy. So yeah, that's just it makes it a bit more agreeable for us.
And for those with hearing aids, a tool was developed that allows them to listen to the music directly into their devices.
We have the hearing aids, it's called a hearing loop. And we have it for the main stage and the marquee. It's a system that they can put the hearing aids at the T-stand. And then they can hear the music directly in their hearing aid instead of all the noises coming together in their hearing aid.
Festival accessibility in Belgium has improved in recent years, but some festival goers believe there's still room for improvement.
They could do better, of course. Depends which festival. I think if the inter-organization is at a festival, you will be helped very well. But if they're not going to be there, it's not always too good, let's say it like that. So there are a few festivals that are not too accessible.
This year, Inter is working with roughly 60 festivals to make music accessible to all.